Spring is right around the corner, just another few weeks of excruciating pain and misery in Berlin, and the sun will be out again. And with it, every man, woman, and non-binary creature in between will start rocking short skirts and t-shirts to show off their tattoo collection. Make sure that the good weather doesn't catch you unprepared and untattooed. Click the link in the description below and book an appointment. And welcome back. One more week. I still don't know what to do with these guys, but yeah, getting some ideas. Maybe I'll just go, hi. I banged the microphone, sorry. I'm a little bit under the weather after like a two-parter complaining about March in Berlin. Now I think it finally got me. I think I survived most of the winter without getting sick. I apologize if I have to stop, drink some water and clear my throat. If you know a little bit about the tattoo scene in Berlin, you probably know AKA as one of the biggest tattoo studios in town, right? But even if you do know that about the studio, you may not know how instrumental it was to shaping the city's tattoo scene, or at least the contemporary tattoo scene. It opened about, I think, 12, 13 years ago, and which in tattoo years is like 150 years because things come and go so fast. And I think it's been such a big impact on the way things work nowadays that it needs an episode on its own, maybe even a couple of them. I think it will be really interesting. Sorry, here we go. Really interesting for younger tattooers to see how, or to hear at least how things used to be before AKA opened, before there were any contemporary tattoo studios in Berlin, you know? There was a very clear pattern on how studios used to work, which is very, very different to the way they work nowadays. And maybe the way AKA works is not so representative of how the newest version of studios operate, because I think that has more to do with collectives, safe spaces. Not to say that AKA doesn't have those, but I think from that perspective, AKA seems a little bit more of a classic street shop, but at the time it opened, it was absolutely revolutionary. So I was lucky enough to work at the shop for a short period of time before opening Hiragana, and it really helped me. It gave me the last remaining piece that I needed to understand how to actually have artists thrive in a tattoo studio. I think I had a very corporate idea on how my studio should work if I ever opened one. And I think if I wouldn't have spent these months at AK, Hiragana would be very different, and I think would be not so artist friendly in a way. But I think this is another idea that would be interesting to explore in another episode. How little things that have to do with customer journey, with the way you decorate a space, with the way you make it functional, and the way you talk to the artists in your studio can push them in one way or another to feel either more confident and blossom as artists, or it can kind of affect their self-esteem and force them to see themselves more as a service provider than a legitimate artist, right? But again, I'm going off topic. for the most part, besides these really inspiring periods that I spent at the shop, my relationship with the studio was always as an external friend of management and the owners. So most of it took place after hours, just sitting there, drinking a beer, having conversations with characters with a capital C. I got the chance to know a lot of interesting people, mostly in a period of my life that where I was in a private setting, on my own, kind of running away from tough experiences, not necessarily bad, but tough experiences in studios and shops. And I think I needed to retrieve myself, kind of regroup, and have enough room to develop my artistic voice. But it came with a price. The fact that I didn't have any interactions with people that I consider to be my peers, right? So I used to live right next door from AK, right around the corner. I had, like I said, friends working there, super inspiring, Rooster of residents and guest artists coming weekly to the studio, and a ton of art events, right? So yeah, it would be impossible to encapsulate in one conversation all the things that I kind of took away from these late night talks with a beer at AK. But one conversation that I don't know why stuck with me and I keep on remembering constantly is one that I had with Hannah. Hannah Graves used to be the shop manager, and she was starting to become an authority in the city. She had helped curate a book by I think it's Gestalten, the publishing house, and yeah, she was like this iconic shop manager from one of the most iconic tattoo studios in one of the most iconic districts in the city. And just when I thought things were starting to blow up for her, she decided to quit and open a different chapter of her life. I think the ultimate motivation behind that was personal reasons and seeking a new challenge. But I just remember having this conversation and asking her, like, why would you move away from these right now? And she told me something that, like I was saying, that stuck with me up until this day. She said, we come from the strongest technical era in tattooing, right? The formation of tattooers, plus the equipment, plus the collective knowledge, make us see day by day and week by week astonishing examples of technical tattooing. And I was super happy to be a part of this era, and now I can start feeling and sensing that the tide is turning. And for every movement, there's a counter movement. People are starting to get sick and tired of these impressively technical tattoos. And I know what's coming, and I don't know that I want to be a part of it. And I don't really stand for it, and I don't want to have to get angry the whole time at clients asking for it, at guest artists or potential guest artists showing me portfolios filled with these new type of work. She was, of course, referring, before it even had a name, to the ignorant style. peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of I suck at these. But I'm trying. I'm gonna get there. I promise. One day I'm gonna be able to make decent ad reads when this channel has sponsors. But in the meantime, for as long as I don't know how to read like I'm a toddler or something, we need your support. Of course, you can like, share, subscribe, comment. All these things are more than welcome and they truly, really help. But we also need money to keep the lights on. That's why we've launched a GoFundMe campaign to collect donations, not only for this channel, but also to support my other two projects, New Fob and Hiragana Studio. Both of these projects are non-profits that support independent tattooers in one way or another. And the work that I do there is pro bono, which again is a very fancy way to say for free. Okay, so the cool thing about GoFundMe compared to other crowdfunding platforms is that it's not all or nothing. This means that you don't need to reach the campaign's goal to have access to the donations. So every donation that you send minus a little something for the platform will find its way to us and help us support these projects and who knows, maybe even get some help. Click the link in the description below, read a bit more about the project and help us continue the good work. So what is ignorant style, right? I think everyone knows what it is if they see one, but I actually had to look up the definition of it because I don't know if there's consensus as for what it is or what are the rules behind the aesthetics or. So let me read it for you real quick. What was it? So this, I think, is someone, it's kind of like a mix between a couple of interviews, I think, with people from Tattoo, right? Whatever. As if that would be the authority. But in any case, they say, ignorant style tattoos have all line work, simple designs with no color and typically no shading. This street art style of body modification was popularized by graffiti artist Fuzi after he started tattooing and sharing his work online. What? Exactly. The movement is a modern version of the ironic design which was pioneered by French graffiti artist Fuzi in the 90s when he started to stray from conventional tattooing by using his street art on skin. So I watched an interview with Fuzi and I think his approach to it was simply that of an outsider, like many other artists nowadays, right? He was accomplished in another medium, wanted to almost transfer into tattooing without losing his artistic identity, just wanting to learn the craft, and was met with a lot of pushback. I know nowadays he lives in California. I don't know if back then he was living in France or in California, but in any case, both scenes are pretty, or were pretty traditional. I think within Europe, or Western Europe rather, I go back and forth. I think maybe Italy is even more purist when it comes to traditional tattooing, but France is also, there's very good tattooers and who hold very precious the tradition, not only when it comes to aesthetics, but also to the way of learning and whatnot. So in any case, I could imagine he was met with a lot of like skepticism and rejection. So he went like, fuck you guys, he knew how to pull off that style despite a lack of technique, and it just took off because it resonated with the whole life philosophy and way of understanding tattoos, right? I think a lot of people don't as tattoos increasingly took themselves too serious, there was again a counter movement of people who wanted to just have fun with it and not take them so serious. And I think what Fuzi kind of started as an exercise of self-expression and just trying to find a translation of his style in graffiti as tattoos, it resonated with people and it just blew up, right? And I think a lot of people ask, like, is it just a temporary thing? Will ignorant style stay? Oh, it will stay. It's here to stay forever. Because I think there has always been examples of people who, you know, find tattoos stupid and they think they should be stupid, but they want to have them on, right? And this is not going anywhere. Will be always a genre that will stay there. So I think besides speaking to a niche, I think in my personal opinion, the most relevant job that the ignorant style had was opening the door to outsiders that all of a sudden didn't feel any longer intimidated by the tattoo scene. When they saw these people coming from the outside and actually thriving within the tattoo scene and eventually make it to places where they could be giving opportunities to other people, I think that invited people that perhaps connect with that aesthetic sensibility and not so much with the philosophy behind it, if there is any philosophy behind it. Because I think ignorant style is almost like a formal revolution, you know. It's almost proving that tattoos can look cool, arguably even cooler, when the lines are not too perfect. But besides that, I don't know that they say much. One could make a case for maybe ignorant style being the best example for absurdism or whatever, you know. But I don't know. I always think, I don't know why I feel like this hipster way of liking things ironic is very wide, is very rich, is very spoiled in a way. So that's almost what drives me nuts, when people think that I run a page of ignorant style. And even when people that make ignorant style tag their tattoos under new fob. I think the main difference between ignorant style and this new wave of expressionism is in tattooing is actually the honesty behind the work, right? One is almost like pretending that who cares and tattoos are dumb and we're all dumb and you shouldn't take yourselves too serious. And the other one is trying to make an honest exercise of expression, you know? Sometimes it's so raw, not only because of the, I don't know, artist's DNA and artistic identity, but more often than not because of a lack of technique, right? But the whole point is that they're not doing things purposely wrong for the sake of making the tattoo look dumb or that it took 2 minutes to make it. Although they might look similar, I think there's an honesty and an openness to be vulnerable that ignorant tattooers will never have. It's almost like hiding behind the idea that, hey, if you don't like it, it's okay because I'm in on the joke and I don't care about it either, and it's supposed to look dumb. if you criticize the work of an expressionist tattooer, they'll be hurt because that's essentially an extension of who they are as an artist, right? And they're trying to use every line and every square inch of ink to express themselves artistically, right? So I think that's absolutely not on Fuzi. I think that's the world taking it and running with it. But I think it's currently pretty cemented, the base of the genre and what it will continue to be, right? Independently of the intentions of the originator. And I think if we use Fuzi as the starting point of ignorant style and as that time marker when that guy came in, revolutionized the game with his personal take, and then these other thing happened. People took it, embraced it, and changed it, and it evolved and mutated to be a completely different thing, right? I think if we trace back this new wave of expressionist movement within tattooing, I think we also find a pioneer. In my opinion, Michele Servadillo, or Servario, I never know how to pronounce it, sorry man, for me, is the godfather of this new movement. Is a very strategic choice for the first ever post on NewFob was his work, as a little tribute. And again, just like AKA, his contribution to tattooing, I think, is too big to just mention it this briefly. I think at some point it will be interesting to make an episode on how he started, how did the landscape look when he started doing what he does, and how it inspired an entire generation, including myself. I'm like very close in terms of generation with him, but I was definitely behind him. Credit where it's due. So I think, this is all the time we have for today. More on that to come. I think every episode shows us bits and chunks that need to be explored in other episodes, and every episode gives us a little bit the roadmap of the episodes that are still to come. So we're barely scratching the surface. If you think that this, like always, is headed in an interesting direction, the format, my skills as a storyteller, all these I hope will continue to improve as videos go online. But the spirit and I don't know, the goal of it all, if you connect with that, please make sure that you share, comment, subscribe, and you hit the link in the description below and read a little bit more about the GoFundMe campaign that we've started. These also need some work. How to go out of these ones. I have the feeling every time I say goodbye 6 times. So just one last, I'll see you next week.